Oh, hey everybody, I'm Sabrina Martinez with Caltrans, your Solano PIO. I'm here with Bart and we're about to give you the history about this great bridge here near Vallejo and Crockett. Hey Bart, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sabrina, thanks.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about this bridge? Why was it built in the first place?
Well, the original Carquinez Bridge was built in 1927. It was actually funded by two grocers, of all things.
Oh.
They ran a ferry. It was called the 6-Minute Ferry that went across from Vallejo to Crockett. That was at the time that just the C&H factory was here, and they came up with the idea if we built a bridge, it could be much more efficient and potentially more lucrative. So American Toll actually built that bridge, and it stood there for a long time until 1958. The state came along and built the second steel truss bridge, which is still down there now. Now then in the late 90s, the region got funds together to build a new bridge because the 27 bridge was aging, and those old steel truss bridges don't work as well in earthquakes. So Caltrans went through a process of identifying different types of bridges. The suspension bridge won out because suspension bridges span long distances. And so by building a suspension bridge, we didn't need a tower in the middle of the water. The old 1958 bridge, you can see, still has that tower there.
Right.
So a little easier to build, much better in an earthquake, a lot more efficient. If you ever take a look at the Alfred Zampa Memorial Bridge, it's form follows function, just cables and concrete and steel.
Would you say this is the only other suspension bridge here in the Bay Area?
No. It's obviously the Golden Gate Bridge is kind of like the princess, the queen of the Bay Area. But what's special about the Zampa Bridge is at the time that it was built, we hadn't built a suspension bridge in the United States in 30 years. So you had a period of time where this technology of spinning cables, the main cables that hold this bridge up, there are 8,584 wires.
Oh, that's
individual 5-millimeter diameter wires that are crunched together down into that cyclone, that circle, and crimped down, and then a wire is wrapped around the outside of it. That's what the main cable is made up of on this type of bridge. We hadn't seen anything like that in a long time in the United States. So building this thing was almost like a throwback to the 20s and 30s when we actually were building bridges in the Bay Area. In the 30s, 1936, the westbounds of the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge were constructed, and then right after that, 1937, the Golden Gate Bridge was opened, and then they had a World's Fair there in 1939. So suspension bridges are really in our blood in the Bay Area, and they are our signature.
Yes, leave it to the Bay Area to make innovation part of its blood. It's all what we're all about. Another thing I'd like to know about this bridge is the bridge deck. What's unique about this bridge deck and the asphalt that's going on it?
Okay, so this was the first steel orthotropic box girder suspension bridge. And that's a lot of words, but basically what that means is it's a steel structure, thin and light, and there are ribs that are underneath the steel that make it strong. Now, many other suspension bridges have ribs underneath the deck, but the trapezoidal, if you saw it in cross-section form, we actually have ribs that kind of go all the way around, making the bridge rigid and extremely functional and extremely light.
Now, light really is another way to keep this safe during earthquakes, right?
Well, I think the best thing about suspension bridges and earthquakes is that they're designed to move. So there are seismic elements in all of our bridges here in the Bay Area, but suspension bridges in particular have to move every day, just with a change in temperature, especially steel ones. This bridge has actually got concrete towers. These walls that we're right up against, they're part of what the tower is that we just climbed up.
Now tell me a little bit about Alfred Zampa and why this bridge is named after him, in honor of him.
Well, look, I met Al Zampa, and I feel very privileged because I actually worked on this bridge when it was being constructed. But Al Zampa was sort of the poster child for the ironworkers, and he's famous because he worked on all of the Bay Area bridges. He grew up right down there in Crockett and Selby, and then his family members all became ironworkers. he fell off the Golden Gate Bridge and landed in the net.
Ooh.
That net that they had on the Golden Gate Bridge was the first time they had that type of safety precaution. But he was injured, so he was out of work for several months. After he recuperated, Al Zampa went right back out onto the bridge and got his job back, and continued being an iron worker all the way throughout his career. So that type of grit is something that really was really always a part of the DNA of iron workers. And when it came time to build this bridge, Al Zampa was actually at the groundbreaking of it. He didn't know that the bridge was going to be named after him. He passed away a few days after, and then that's when everybody made the decision, let's name it after him. So this is the only suspension bridge in the state of California named after a blue-collar worker.
When bridge workers do fall off the Golden Gate Bridge, isn't it part of a club that they have?
So they did. They started the Halfway to Hell Club. That the members were only people that actually fell off the bridge and got caught in that net. That was not a pleasant experience, right? As you can imagine, this net's just kind of hanging out there, and then they had to be rescued off of that, and then they went to the hospital. Like, many people hurt their backs, same like Al Zampa did. But yeah, that group stayed together for many years afterwards.
Not a group we all want to be a part of.
I think they're all gone now.
Any other interesting tidbits about this this bridge that you want to share?
Well, there's a lot about this bridge that's special, but for motorists that drive over it every day, you get that connection. This is, if you're coming down Interstate 80, the westbound, this is where you first encounter the bay. That is the Bay Area. So it's a gateway here in Vallejo that takes you down into the San Francisco and sort of the heart of what we consider the Bay Area. So it's iconic in that it has the signature span, that curvilinear arc, and it was great when they decided to put this in. For me, it was great because Vallejo's my hometown.
Right.
To have a suspension bridge in your hometown is quite a thing, and now it's 23 years later, and it's really performed well. So I think Caltrans is pretty happy with the performance we've gotten out of this deck and the bridge itself.
Well, thank you so much, Bart, for all the history on this bridge. It's exciting to be here for this closure. Remember, everyone, go to carquinezpave.com for more information, and also to gather more tidbits about this bridge. Thanks again, Bart, and thank you, Bay Area.